हमारे वक्त की धड़कन, हमारा चिंतन, हमारी भावनाएं, हमारे विचार, कभी कोमल बातचीत तो कभी इंटरेक्शन तेज तर्रार। तय करें मिलकर व्हाट इज रॉन्ग, व्हाट इज राइट। ITV पर अशोक व्यास के साथ इनसाइट टुनाइट। नमस्कार, स्वागत है आपका इनसाइट टुनाइट विद अशोक व्यास कार्यक्रम में। एंड टुडे वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट यू, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट व्हिच इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, रेलेवेंट एंड समथिंग दैट क्रिएट्स आवर एक्सपीरियंसेस, दैट व्हिच स्टेज विद अस wherever we go is our habit. And how habits are formed, habits, the sequence of all the habits that we carry with us all the times with us starts defining who we are for others as well as for ourselves. So there is something called habit which is creating our experiences, which is the cause of our happiness and sometimes unhappiness, which is also instrumental in building a sense of harmony amongst all our relations. So this simple word, which is habit, is playing such an important role in making our world, in creating our experiences. But sometimes we feel that we are caught up in the sort of habits that has become a part of us. And we say that this is my nature. Some people are good at criticizing others. Some people are good at appreciating what is happening around them. A very simple example reminds me of someone who wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh wow, what a wonderful morning." And there are others who may look out of the window the same morning and may tell themselves, "Oh no, morning again." So how we can understand the formation of our habits which are taking us to this or that direction, and is it possible for us to change habits if we want to become a little bit more happy, if we want to learn from those who have achieved more than ourselves in the world? How to rewire? That is the question. Can we change our habits? And to talk to us about this, I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Sangeet Khanna, who is practicing psychiatry, and that way also he's dealing with people who come up with some sort of a mix-up in their habits. We'll find out more about habits from him, as well as I have the pleasure of welcoming Somik Chaudhuri, who has been active in the world of corporate world as well as in the philanthropic work through his organization, which is affiliated with United Nations. So let me begin with you, Somik, first. How do you think we may define habits?
Well, habits, something, sequence of actions that we commit on certain situations. Supposing, like, we have a habit of waking up early in the morning, going to the shower, then catching a train at a particular time. These are certain habits which we form, And I would say that it's a sequence of action which we are habituated, which we are geared or wired to perform under certain circumstances.
This reminds me that there are demands of the situation which would compel us to act in a certain fashion. But is it actually our habit? Or once that external compulsion is taken away, we would behave differently? For example, you mentioned about getting up early. So, Dr. Khanna, what do you think? Getting up early under certain compulsive circumstances also forms a part of habit in the way you would define habit?
Well, habits are oftentimes a product of our environment. So if, we're in a commute that requires us to get up early and catch the train at a specific time, then our environment is sort of putting us in that position to develop that habit. There are some people who, perpetually get up late because they don't necessarily have to get up on time at a decent hour. So for those individuals, they're perceived as lazy or one way or another. So it's important to understand the environmental impact of what is governing that behavior.
So talking about behavior, there are two sides of it. One which is externally visible, and we say that this is my habit, and there is another which is internal, and wherein you find some people are more stress prone, or they are more restless. They want everything to be done at a certain jet speed, and that causes a sense of disturbance for them and sometimes for people around them. So would you say that is also something which we would term as habit?
Well, yes, that comes from several factors: internal, genetic, some may be circumstantial, environmental. So all these factors play into a person's psychology as to how he reacts to situations, to environments.
And have you come across people who are generally relaxed, whatever happens, they are smiling, and there are some people who are at the drop of a small change in their harmonious pattern would react in a very different way?
Yes, absolutely. There are definitely individuals who are very much affected by the environmental flux that occurs, whereas other individuals would be less impacted or less affected emotionally by an environmental flux.
So talking about how our habits are formed, of course we learn a lot from our parents, how we are exposed to the kind of environment which we find around us in our school or wherever we go for playing, the kind of friend circle that we have. So to some extent it is our external environment that is playing its role in building our habits. But you will see that two brothers have different sorts of habits. So how would you say the internal mechanism that we have is playing its role in making our habits?
Well, I think every human being is different. So internally, I think every human being reacts differently to the same situation. And that is something which really creates the kind of behavioral habit for a particular situation between one brother and the other. Both of them might be so different. So that is why we have brothers who are so different. They are growing up in the same environment, in the same family, but they are very different. So that comes from internally, how the person is. How the person is.
So going internally with this question, some people follow this deeply, the principle that don't give up, Dr. Sangeet, and some people are very quick in giving up. So is there something that is a part of their habit, and is it possible to change the approach?
Well, it's important to understand that habits are really a product of the internal mental physiology adapting to the external environment. So in answer to your question, yes, it is possible to change the way you internally adapt towards an external stressor. But the important thing is it's going to take some time, it's going to take effort and motivation on your part to do so.
So now there are certain habits which we have always heard are good habits. For example, they say early to bed, early to rise keeps a man healthy, wealthy and wise. But this is causing a lot of attention in many homes because kids are not really finding it easy to get up, and especially teenagers, they feel that they are always finding it difficult to get up. And if parents look at their habit of leaving bed late as something bad, then it is a constant struggle and some sort of a tug of war which may lead to a lot of tension at home. So how would you say, so before I come to you, Dr. Sangeet, in general, Somik, the way you have grown up and you have seen life, you would say that getting up early is a good habit necessarily?
Well, based on whatever environment I grew up in, waking up early was a good habit. Now, say if someone works very late at night, till late at night, for him to wake up early would be unpractical. I mean, it won't be wise for us to expect him or her to wake up early in the morning, because he needs that much of sleep for his health to remain proper. So it depends from situation to situation. I would say generally for normal people, waking up early in the morning is good, but it might change in another situation.
So we grew up hearing that you should leave your bed before sun rises, Dr. Sangeet, but now I think things are changing, is it?
Well, I think it's important to understand that we shouldn't be quick to judge. The modern day society has completely different expectations of us individuals than even, say, 20, 30 years ago. The development of the internet, the development of the information age has kept us so connected from a business standpoint and a work environment standpoint that the 9 to 5 is completely, non-existent, in all practicality, because we're constantly accessible by our peers, by our coworkers, and just to have that understanding that to get up at a certain time, to sleep at a certain time, although is ideal, but it's just not possible for everybody. So it's important to understand that the environment plays a big role.
Indeed, that environment is playing a big role. But let us say if parents want that the kids should try and change their sleep cycle, at least during the day when they don't have to go to school or something, they should find a reasonably acceptable time. So what would be your advice? Can there be some way which would help, let us say, teenagers in changing their habit?
Well, from a teenage perspective, sleep and insomnia is a chronic problem. And it's also important for the parents to understand the importance that their child get, the importance of their child getting enough sleep, even as teenagers. We stress this in our infants and toddlers, where the child would get 12 hours of sleep. But in teenage years, there's always that resistance to fall asleep at a decent hour. So it's important to not just demand that from our children, but also to teach the importance of it to our children from a health standpoint, from an understanding of how it's going to affect your mental state, how it's going to affect your physical ability to engage in the next day. All of these things, if we take it from a health standpoint, we'll have a better chance at explaining it to our children than to just demand them to go to sleep at a certain hour.
तो बेसिकली बच्चों को कुछ बात कहनी है तो वी हैव टू बी लॉजिकल नाउडेज एंड उन्हें लगे कि हाँ ये बात ठीक है तो वो मानेंगे. ऐसा हम सुनते हैं आज के जो विद्वान लोग हैं जैसे डॉक्टर संगीत खन्ना उनसे. एंड कई बार ऐसा होता है कि कुछ पेरेंट्स की और इवन सम फ्रेंड्स हैव दिस हैबिट ऑफ आस्किंग अ लॉट, पूछताछ की आदत होती है. So there is too much of inquisitiveness, which is a part of some people's habit. And others are very much sort of aloof or indifferent to what is happening around them. So if someone is too much inquisitive and that he or she may not realize, but it makes others uncomfortable, can that habit be changed?
It's important that you bring that up. I've actually encountered that in my practice, and also in amongst colleagues and work individuals. Just the other day, I had asked an individual a question of whether they would be able to come or wouldn't they be able to come at an event, and their response was so long-winded, and all they had to just say was, "No, I won't be able to make it. Probably next time." Whereas they gave a 5 to 10 minute explanation for why they wouldn't be able to make it. Well, I didn't really expect that from them. I just expected them to answer the question if they'd be able to come or no. So it's important to respect those boundaries and to not be continually over-explaining oneself and to just be polite in your answer.
So be polite and don't over-explain. I think we sometimes develop this habit of being as clear as possible. And even if other is not interested, we want him or her to understand where we are coming from. Is it possible to change this habit? Because we think that this is the right way.
Well, actually changing one's habit is always possible, because let me take an example from history. If, as you know, sage Valmiki, he was a dacoit and he wanted to change, and he worked towards it, and he changed from a dacoit to a sage. So anyone can change, do anything he wants, and change is possible. So coming to your question, that whether the person can change, yes, of course he can change. First he has to identify that he has a problem, and then work his way to finding solutions to the problem. I think that is the first step.
So the important thing is to identify the problem. And have you ever been in a situation where you felt that I want to change this habit, and then you took certain steps which enabled you to discover a different you? Or if there are some tips that you want to share which might help someone else in moving towards the path of changing their habits, please join this conversation, and we will be right back after this break.
To advertise in this show, please call 347-653-1309.
आप सभी का स्वागत है डांस के महाकुंभ भारत की शान रुचुम में।
Kishan, weekends at 10 p.m., 9 Central.
For advertising, please call 347-653-1309.
Namaste, Salam Alaikum and Sat Sri Akal. My name is K.D. Singh Sani and I represent Sani Accounting Services. We prepare individual and business tax returns year-round. We are also IRS authorized e-file service provider. We offer excellent services at very affordable rates. I have 30 years of experience in small business consultation and management. I will be grateful for your business and you will be our satisfied customer. Thank you.
Spirituality is the medium which frees our mind of all emotional shackles and temptations and guides us towards enlightenment and peace. Himali Spiritual Center is the gateway to liberation from pain, misery and suffering. Here, through religion, meditation, yoga, worship and gem therapy, all troubles are treated. Himali Spiritual Center, 718-887-2929.
Your eyes are the windows to your world. Trust your eyes to Malik Eye Care. This is where ophthalmology, optometry, and opticianry join under one roof to meet all your vision needs. Our offices house a plethora of state-of-the-art lasers and diagnostic equipment. I'm a board-certified ophthalmologist and a member of the American Academy of Ophthalmology, and also a fellow of the American College of Physicians and Surgeons. I've done thousands of ocular surgeries to restore vision to many patients. Consult our offices to see how we can improve your vision. We look forward to seeing you at your next appointment.
Shri Durga Mata astrologer and palm reader, world famous astrologer Pandit Baba Sai Ram is in New York. Pandit predicts past, present and future. Intending person can inquire about education, love, marriage, husband and wife problems, children, health, court case and many other personal problems. Pandit can bring the loved ones back, and also he is a specialist in removal of black magic and evil spirits. Call for appointment. Jackson Heights, Queens, New York. Mobile number 646-517-8368, 347-657-3822.
Welcome back. Time to talk about changing our habits, and is it possible to do that? Many people are very, very punctual. They are punctual to the extent that others would feel little uncomfortable around them because of their punctuality. But punctuality is a good habit. So the same habit which is good is also not perceived as that good a habit by others at times. Let us restrict ourselves to our relationship with time. And Somik, in your case, what would you say? Are you a very punctual person, and do you consider it very important?
Yeah, I think I'm very punctual, and to me that is very important. I mean, if I have an appointment at 12 o'clock, I'll be there at 11:59, never at 12:01. That's the kind of punctuality that I try to follow. Yes, it is good in certain ways. In certain ways, it may not be very good, especially when my expectations are that my team members should follow the kind of discipline that I follow. At times, it doesn't gel very well because people are different, their environments are different, their upbringing are different, you know. So they might have different...
Let's go a little deeper. While you were a student in school at early age, was there someone who influenced you to pay this much attention to being punctual, or it just...
Yeah, no, actually my father, he was, he trained us to be very punctual, to be very disciplined. And then, of course, in school I had NCC training. So that helped us to become very disciplined, you know, so that grew from the beginning, from our childhood days.
We have seen many people looking at reaching late to a function as a statement that they are very important persons, so they are reaching late. So in this context, of course, in America, many times we feel that most of the programs start at time, but still there are events when they start late, then people say, desi time se shuru hua hai. So Dr. Sangeet, what would you say? Being punctual is a habit that can be developed even if it is not a part of your system for 30, 40 years. Can you change?
That's a difficult habit to adapt towards, especially after 30, 40 years of, being in that sort of mental state where punctuality isn't of top priority. We mentally have an internal clock which sort of regulates our time into, a sleep-wake cycle. And it plays into how we perceive time. So it's also important to understand that when we perceive time in a more relaxed manner, that we end up becoming more, tedious and can easily lead to being late.
So there is a similar side to being punctual, and some people say बहुत laid back है, वो आराम से है, मतलब ठीक है. So, but there are others who want things to be done at the time when they are due. So again, there is this word procrastination. Huh? So, Somik, what would you say is this habit that आज नहीं कल कर लेंगे परसों कर लेंगे, this kind of habit of avoiding to do things, how that becomes a part of someone's personality and how it can be changed?
Well, I mean, it changed. I mean, like that habit develops from childhood. If right from the beginning he or she is used to having a laid-back kind of lifestyle, so automatically the necessity of doing something on time, that urgency is not there, that passion is not there, So, and of course, it can be changed. I believe anyone can change any habit if he or she wants to change. The first thing is that he should want to change. If he wants to change, then there are ways in which people can work or help them, or they themselves can help themselves to change the habit.
So talking about habits, Dr. Sangeet, based on your experience, of course, talk a little bit about the habit of delaying things, how it can be changed. And secondly, any one habit that you think is shared by most of the successful people, what is that habit?
Well, getting back to the first question about procrastination. Procrastination plays into this concept of what I like to describe as mental real estate, where what we tend to put off, we may put off physically, but it tends to linger mentally. And that can continue to put a strain on your ability to accept new projects, accept other things that you want to achieve. So by overburdening your mind with things that you have pending, with things that you haven't accomplished, you're limiting yourself to being able to accept new projects, new challenges, and new prospects moving forward.
So, if we want to move forward, the habit of doing things in a certain fashion helps. So that orderly approach which I heard from you that you have, so combination of these habits, is it sometimes making you away from the kind of joy or relaxed experiences which others have?
Well, yes and no. For me, I mean, if I have certain jobs to complete or to do, I would ensure, I would be passionate. I would ensure that they are done on time, you know. And if it is not done, I have a problem, you know. But at the same time, as far as joys are concerned, I wouldn't say it takes away the joys of life from my life. I would say that I have, once I finish doing whatever I have to do, I have enough time to celebrate and, you know, have a nice time.
So when you are having a nice time, you are actually having a nice time. So there is a totality of your existence which opens this window of enjoying. But mostly we are avoiding to make ourselves available for this window. If you are watching television, maybe right now, if you are watching it, and then you are also surfing through net using your smartphone, or you have your laptop in front of her. So all of us are gradually becoming multitaskers. So Sangeet ji, this habit, which is becoming a part of our lives now, how do you see? It's a good habit? It's not so good?
I think it's becoming a chronic problem in modern day society, where mentally we're not able to just focus on one specific task, because we're developing this habit of doing multiple things at a given time, listening to one thing, seeing something else, whereas writing something else. All of these various sensory organs that we possess are all being stimulated at the same time with various different stimuli, and that can really put a strain on on your brain and on your ability to process information effectively for each channel that's being stimulated. So it's important to understand that and to not let it overwhelm you to a point where this becomes a chronic problem.
So we don't have enough of open attention for television. We don't have 100% attention for internet. We have divided attention for whatever it is that is in front of us. And this habit of divided attention, Somik, when is seen in the scenario where somebody is trying to tell you something, then half the time, rather than listening to what is being said, we are drafting our dialogue in our mind as soon as she finishes, this is what I'm going to say. That habit, do you think, requires some sort of a modification, and it is possible?
I think it requires modification, because patience and listening to the person, it's very important. Because until and unless we have the patience to hear the other person and listen to the person completely, we cannot understand what he or she is talking about, and we cannot respond in the right manner. If we want to preempt and say something based on whatever we assume the other person wants to say, that may not be the truth, that may not be the complete fact. So I think this requires modification, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Sangeet, you may add how that modification can be brought about.
Well, the modification can be brought about by, physically understanding that this is a chronic problem and making that change for oneself and for one's betterment. There's a saying that in order to get somebody's undivided attention, you need to basically have three stimuli going: your visual, your auditory, and being in front of them in person.
So now a question about habits and our age bracket. Most of the habits probably we acquire while we are young, or there are some habits that can be acquired even after you have formulated most of your habits. What has been your experience based on what you saw amongst your friends?
Well, I have, from what I observed of my friends, most of them acquired basic habits right from childhood, but there were certain things which they acquired as they grew, as the environment changed, as they went from school to college, college to university, from university to work, based on the different environmental pressures or situations. They created or they developed different habits.
So, Sangeet, learning is also a kind of a habit. So some people have this habit of learning something new all the time and they are more open. Is this, call it a habit or approach, it can be developed?
The idea and motivation to learn something new? That's a difficult question to answer. Some people enjoy the process of learning, whereas others are more comfortable with doing things that they already know. It stems from childhood experiences. It stems from self-confidence in grasping information in a quick manner. So these all factors play into an individual's desire to want to learn something new.
And the habit of connecting with the nature. So maybe you go out, look at the sunrise, or make it a habit to walk in some natural surrounding, maybe a beautiful park, or take some time out and be with nature. Is that habit you see in a lot of people, or very few people have that habit?
Well, actually in New York, I think I see it in very few people. In Long Island, where I live, I see that that habit is there amongst a lot of people. They have their garden, they have their parks where they move around, they spend time with nature. So I think in the concrete jungle of New York City, it is probably less. But in Long Island or in New Jersey probably, or in any of the other places where access to or availability of parks and open spaces, where people can generally, move with nature, that wherever it's available, I think people tend to utilize that.
And Sangeet, from the point of view of a psychiatrist, how being with nature works on our mind?
Well, I think it offers a very tranquil experience, a very calming effect when you're in an environment that's very peaceful, that's not overly stimulated. Your brain actually releases chemicals that enable you to physically relax. It loosens the muscle tension, it slows down the heart rate, it slows down the breathing process, and you become relaxed. And relaxing is a very important aspect of our daily life, and we need to incorporate relaxing techniques into this busy hustle and bustle lifestyle that we're living.
And talking about relaxation and being one with nature, here's a short, very short film by Nitin Das, which is encouraging us to slow down. Let us watch. flow, glow. Such a beautiful rhyme with a little hum that was befitting the theme slow down. And as we slow down, we take a short break and then we'll be right back with more tips on how to develop habits that make success available for us.
To advertise in this show, please call 347-653-1309.
Spirituality is the medium which frees our mind of all emotional shackles and temptations and guides us towards enlightenment and peace. Himali Spiritual Center is the gateway to liberation from pain, misery and suffering. Here, through religion, meditation, yoga, worship and gem therapy, all troubles are treated. Himali Spiritual Center, 718-887-2929.
I am your immigration attorney, Michael Fulwani.
And I'm your immigration attorney, David Nachman.
Keep watching us, our program on immigration and you.
For the latest information, updates, and developments about immigration law.
Every Saturday at 8:15 p.m.
And wake up to us on Sunday at 11:45 a.m.
Consult Swami Manjeet Ji for accurate horoscope reading, palm reading and likelihood of love, marriage, children, business, health, immigration and court cases. Swamiji removes black magic, gives protection and helps in removing various problems by powerful holy mantras and meditation on God. Free check of black magic. Excellent results. Call 718-358-2901. The number again, 718-358-2901.
There's a distinction and beauty to a four-season sunroom. It's more than the way it's built. It's the way it makes you feel. Your home is the cornerstone of your life. Create a space to rest and relax. Spend time with the people you love. Surround yourself with friends. Build your future. There are so many reasons to add light, space, and above all, value to your home. The only question is, what will you create? With our free in-home design consultation, you can start imagining now. And with prices from as little as $129 a month, now is the time to call Four Seasons. To celebrate our 40th anniversary, Four Seasons is offering free installation with any sunroom purchase. Plus, 40% off our energy-saving windows. That's 40 years of delivering beautiful, custom-built sunrooms with cutting-edge technology. Call today or visit us online and ask about our extensive range of living solutions. Four Seasons. Live, love your life.
Namaste, Salam Alaikum and Sat Sri Akal. My name is K.D. Singh Sani and I represent Sani Accounting Services. We prepare individual and business tax returns year-round. We are also IRS authorized e-file service provider. We offer excellent services at very affordable rates. I have 30 years of experience in small business consultation and management. I will be grateful for your business and you will be our satisfied customer. Thank you.
वेलकम बैक टू इनसाइड टुनाइट विद अशोक व्यास। आज के कार्यक्रम में हम बात कर रहे हैं क्या अपनी आदतों को बदला जा सकता है और आदतों को बदलने की जरूरत क्या है। कई बार हमारा जो प्रसन्नता का अनुभव है, वेदर वी आर फीलिंग हैप्पी और वी आर फीलिंग सैड, इज डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड टू द सेट ऑफ हैबिट्स दैट हैज बिकम अ पार्ट ऑफ अस, and people recognize, identify us on the basis of the habits that we have. Some people looking at us would start quite think down and would think that abhi aaye hain, now he's going to shout at me for something or the other, because that is how they look at us. And some people looking at us may think that let me share this with him. This will be very encouraging experience to share what I have thought of doing with my life. So let us look at a small word called smile. Somik, people find smile contagious, but some people are in the habit of always smiling. Is it possible to sort of change this habit if someone is not given to smile at all?
Well, I think smile is very important. Smiling reflects the happiness of the soul within, the person within, and I think the habit of smiling is very important and people should cultivate that. So if someone does not have the habit of smiling, I think he should make an effort to create that habit of smiling every now and then.
Wonderful. Let me with a smile see what our viewer are trying to tell us. Hello, welcome. आप अपना टेलीविजन का वॉल्यूम कम करें एंड प्लीज स्टार्ट. हाँ जी, नमस्कार. जीवन में सब चीज पॉसिबल है जी. हर चीज बदल सकती है, हर चीज हो सकता है, लेकिन उसकी चाहिए विल पावर जी. अगर विल पावर है तो आप सब कुछ कर सकते हो. अगर विल पावर नहीं है तो बड़ा मुश्किल होता है. अच्छा, दूसरी बात होती है एनवायरमेंट. वो किस सोसाइटी में रहता है, किस सोसाइटी में बिलोंग करता है, उसको वो हैबिट रहती है. अगर वो समझ रहे हैं कि अच्छा है और बुरा है तो वो अपने आप को चेंज करता है. अगर उसका विल पावर है. अच्छा, तो विल पावर आपके हिसाब से कैसे डेवलप हो सकती है? और दूसरा जी होती है कि अच्छे गुरु से मिल करके, गुरु टीचर से जी. और मुस्कुराना क्या सीखा जा सकता है? मुस्कुराना जीवन में जिसको दो बातें आ गई है उसको सीखना आ गया है. एक तो हंसना और देना. हंसना और देना जिसको आ गया वो जीवन में जी सकता है. बहुत अच्छी बातें बहुत जरूरी है जी. हंसने के लिए ये जरूरी है अपने आप को पहले हंसाए. अगर अपने आप को नहीं हंसाएगा तो क्या हंसाएगा? तो ये बहुत जरूरी है उस आदमी के अंदर उसके विल पावर को क्रिएट किया जाए. बस उसको अच्छा फिर हो जाएगा. और उसको बताया जाए ये अच्छा ये बुरा है, उसे समझने का अच्छा बुरा है वो चेंज कर लेगा. अच्छा, बहुत आपने अच्छी सी बातें कही. आपको धन्यवाद करने के साथ में एक बात और पूछना चाहता हूँ. हर पॉइंट में बात करो, हर चीज में बात करते हो. मुझे बहुत भगवान ने अच्छे गुरु से आपको मिली है, अच्छे गुरु की ट्रेनिंग आपको मिली है. अच्छा, तो आपको गुरु में कहता हूँ. अरे, मैं आपको लेकिन एक सवाल और पूछना चाहता हूँ. आपके जीवन में कभी ऐसा हुआ कि आपने जी, तो आपके जीवन में कभी ऐसा हुआ कि आपको लगा मुझे ये आदत बदलनी है और फिर आपने वो बदली हो? बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. मेरे दोस्त थे उनमें सब आते थे. जुआ खेलता था, शराब, सिगरेट, सब कुछ थे. मैं उनके साथ रहता था और उनके साथ के अंदर रहते थे. मैंने उनकी आदत छुड़ाने की कोशिश की. मैंने उनकी आदत नहीं ज्ञान की, मैंने छुड़ाने की कोशिश की. लेकिन वो मान जाते थे, कसम भी खाते थे, लेकिन अकेले फिर वहां पर रहते. नहीं, आपने खुद की कोई आदत बदली क्या कभी? मैंने बताया ना जी. मैं उनके साथ रहते थे, जो उनके गुरु थे, मैंने उनको गुरु को लिया जी. तो मुझे अच्छे गुरु मिले थे जी. मैंने अपने पिताजी से संस्कार किए, मेरे फादर ने मुझे संस्कार किए जी. मैं उनके लिए उनको मैं अडॉप्ट करने लगा हूँ. क्या बात है, बहुत धन्यवाद. उसके बाद मेरे गुरु मिल गए जी. गुरु ने मेरी लाइन और चेंज कर दी. तो उन्होंने मेरे को सिखाया कि लोगों को हंसाओ, लोगों को हंसाओगे तुम्हारे जीवन में बड़ा खुशी होगा. क्या बात, बहुत. मैं लोगों को हंसाने की कोशिश करता हूँ जी. मेरे पास जो भी आते हैं उनको मैं हंसाने की कोशिश करता हूँ जी जी. तो आपने बहुत अच्छी बातें कही. आपको धन्यवाद है. आप ये प्रोग्राम करते हो उसके धन्यवाद है. So nice of you. Really appreciate your call. And Sangeet, continuing with the thank you, sir. Continuing with the reference of smile, do you think it is possible to develop the habit of smiling?
Well, smiling is often a reflex of your internal mental state. So we can attempt at smiling and try to cultivate that as much as possible. But when we're around a stimulus that brings it on directly, that will have more of an impact. Just by practicing it, it will take some time, but putting yourself in an environment where it naturally comes out, that is more beneficial.
So we live in New York, and of course, most of our festivals are aimed at encouraging us to go out and do shopping, and there are so many sales out there. So it becomes even more difficult to develop the habit of saving. Saving is indeed important, and we have heard the significance of saving from our elders many times. Somik, if someone is very, very loose in sort of going out and buying things, and then they end up spending over what is the credit limit that they have, so it might lead to a difficult situation. So tell me, the habit of saving, is it something that can be developed?
Absolutely. Any good habit can be developed, and I think saving is very important. We have this habit in India, of course. Over here, because of so many sales, as you said, it becomes a little difficult. But I think we need to have the willpower to ensure that we start saving. We need to move away from the malls to some other place where we do not have the impulse to go and shop and buy things and spend money. Probably something else, like maybe some sports or something which might not only help you physically and mentally, but also help you to save. Something like that, shifting the environment, which helps you to save or prevent you from spending. That is something I think which is very important to do, and as the first step. And then, of course, to ensure that you replace it with something else, like I said, maybe some sports or maybe some reading, maybe something else, something which would be a replacement to the spending habit of the person.
Both important points आपने बताया, अच्छे tips बताए, but I would still seek Dr. Sangeet's opinion with additional input of the fact that many times people feel that going out for marketing is a kind of relaxing experience. So if they want to get away from some tension or something that is bothering them, they just go out and buy anything and everything. So what would be your advice to them?
Well, no, you're absolutely right. There are individuals who use shopping as a mode of therapy. And that can be dangerous also because when you're put in a stressful situation, you'll have that impulse to continue to just go and buy things, things that you may not need or things that may put you in debt. So it's important to understand that when we do certain things, to not get ahead of ourselves and use that as a crutch to overcome a mental stressor that we're facing.
Talking about certain habits which are helpful in making the most of the opportunity that each day offers us. So if we look at top 3 habits, Somik, which you would say are definitely a good companion to have, what would be your choice?
I would firstly say discipline is very important because that helps a person to go forward in life. Secondly, of course, being happy internally from inside, and that develops through spiritual practices, through meditation and all these things, because then you change your perspective of life. You see the world and situations in a different way. So that makes you automatically very happy. So happiness is very important, and of course saving is also very important.
Wonderful. So discipline and what was the second one?
Happiness.
Happiness. So discipline, happiness and saving. So I saved the same question for Dr. Sangeet. If you were to pick top 3 habits that you would recommend?
To continue to learn, throughout life, I think that helps keep the mental state energized and refreshed, as you grow older. That's important. Also to limit TV. That's also a big thing that we're all guilty of. And the last one is sleep. I would really recommend that people change their habits so that they get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night.
And what should be our approach when people don't understand us? We feel very disturbed. Sometimes it pushes us to that area where we feel very bad and lonely because people are not understanding us. So any habit which can help, which can empower us in those, call them space, which brings a sense of loneliness.
Well, actually, I mean, when we face situations where we feel that the other people, they are not understanding us, they have different views, we must, I think, learn to accept difference. And I think that is something which would enable us to embrace the society as a whole, in spite of all the differences that are there. Because a garden full of one kind of flower would not be as beautiful as a garden full of various types of flowers. So in God's creation, nature is different and people are also different. And the best way to live is to live harmoniously in spite of all the difference, because the uniting factor is the fact that we are all human beings and we have the same impulses and the same desires to achieve something better for ourselves and for our children and succeeding generations.
So very well said. Now, Sangeet, if things are not turning out to be the way we want them to be, and how to deal with, call it, failure?
Well, I think it's important to not use a negative connotation when we talk about the word failure. I tend to teach in my practice to not look at failure as a permanent thing, but to look at it as delayed success. So in reality, failure really is permanent when you just stop trying to achieve that which you have not yet succeeded at. So you haven't failed. You've only failed if you don't continue to try it and continue to pursue it. So it's important for us to understand that mentally, that failure is not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that we can learn from. It's something that can help us motivate moving forward, and it's just a bump in the road to ultimately achieving success.
I think meditation practice or spiritual practices must have shown you how to deal with this area wherein you experience a sense of failure or not getting what you want to happen. How to work under those circumstances?
Well, actually, failure, my father had defined failure as stumbling blocks. So he said that turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So turn your failures into success in future. Learn from failure and improve yourself, become more strong, and go forward and be successful in whatever you want to do. So turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones.
So if someone wants to start a new phase by developing new habits, scientifically speaking, is there any kind of study that would say number of days which are necessary to make a new habit a part of you?
When you talk about specific numbers, it's very difficult to generalize when you talk about various different habits. For instance, alcoholism, which is a chronic problem amongst modern-day society, takes many, many months, even years, to overcome. So to just put a blanketed number on habits is very difficult to say. But it's at least important to pursue something that you want for about a period of 1 or 2 months, to have it be a part of you and grow comfortable in this new setting that you've established for yourself.
And one habit which I think is equally important in making us happy is to be grateful, to be thankful for what has come our way, because each breath is a great opportunity which opens the whole world for us. And do you think this habit of being grateful is also something which is inbuilt, or it can be developed?
Well, I think it can be developed, and I think it is very important to develop the habit or the attitude of being grateful. Because actually, if you see all around, there are so many things to be grateful for. Our breath, our life, nature, everything that nature provides for us. So all in all, I think we should develop the attitude of being grateful for what we have, being thankful, and being happy for what we have.
So, as we are thankful to all of you for being with us in the last minute or so, Dr. Sangeet, the sense of gratefulness, which when we hear from people who talk from spiritual platform, of course there is a conviction, but you are coming from a different window or perception which is related to your study of psychiatry. Does it really help mentally, being grateful?
Yes, when you take a moment to appreciate what you have, it gives you that sense of pride, that sense of accomplishment, and gives you the realization of what it is that you've already achieved. And that's important in moving forward. It's important to always, give ourselves that positive feedback that we have come a long way in achieving, our steps that we've taken, and that we may have some further to go. But it's always important to know where we came from and where we are at this point.
So one common goal for all of us is to be happy, and then being happy and working in such a way that we add to the overall happiness of the world and make it a better place than what we see as we rise each morning. So to just sum it up, every night, is there any mental suggestion or prayer that you would recommend for our viewers?
Well, I think the prayer that we should do every night is that to thank the Lord for all that He has given us, and to pray that we become more eligible to receive those blessings that we get every day from nature, from our surroundings, from everywhere, from life itself.
Wonderful. And very briefly, you were talking about limiting our television viewing period.
Yes.
Is there any recommendation in terms of what should be the time lag between the time we stop watching television and at the time when we want to sleep?
You would like to ideally give about an hour and a half to 2 hours from the time you stop watching TV to the time that you actually go through the process of going to sleep. What happens is when you watch TV, you're physically not engaged, but mentally you're very much engaged. So it takes a while for your mental state to actually come down to a level where you can actually achieve rest and sleep comfortably.
Wonderful. On that note, I guess David Letterman heard the suggestion that Dr. Sangeet Khanna has given, so now he has declared that he's going to retire, because if you want to sleep early, then probably late night show would not find you there in front of your television. So it was great having Dr. Sangeet Khanna and Somik Chaudhuri talking to us about our ability to change our habits and be happier than what you are. With that in mind, with lots of good wishes, and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, this is Ashok Vyas saying good night.